Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch. It had been a decade since my wife walked out on me and our 5 children, leaving a void in our lives I never thought I could fill. Overnight, I was thrust into a life I hadn't prepared for, one filled with chaos, sleepless nights, and endless challenges. But through it all, I persevered. Each year brought new hurdles, but it also strengthened the bond between me and my kids. We became a team, a family determined to thrive despite the odds. Then, 10 years later, my world was shaken again, this time by her unexpected return. My alarm buzzed at 5 a.m., piercing through the quiet of the house. Groggy, I turned it off, swung my legs out of bed, and tiptoed toward the kitchen. Mornings were my sanctuary, a brief moment of peace before the chaos began. I cracked eggs into a sizzling pan, the smell of frying pancakes mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. This routine was more than just habit. It was my anchor, the glue that held our lives together. As I flipped the pancakes, I reflected on the journey. Raising 5 kids alone was never the plan, but it became my reality. Each smile at the breakfast table made every sleepless night worth it. "Dad, I can't find my homework," my youngest, little Toby, hollered from the hallway. With a laugh, I handed over a forgotten lunchbox to Jerry, my eldest, who had already stepped into a second parent role. "All right, everyone, let's move," I called out, orchestrating the usual morning chaos. Shoes were tied, jackets zipped, and backpacks hoisted onto shoulders as we piled into the old minivan. By the time I dropped the kids off at school, I felt like I had already worked a full day, but my job as a construction worker awaited. The hum of machinery greeted me as I walked onto the gravel-filled site, my steel-toed boots crunching beneath me. "Ben, can I see you in my office?" Simeon, my supervisor, called out. I followed him, unsure of what to expect. "Listen, Ben, we've noticed your dedication," Simeon began. "Juggling 5 kids and still showing up here every day with a smile is no small feat. We'd like to offer you a promotion." Stunned, I nodded. It was more than I'd ever expected. The new role came with a bigger paycheck, but also longer hours. My mind raced. Could I balance this opportunity with the time my kids needed from me? That evening, as I pulled into the driveway, my eyes caught a letter on the dashboard. The handwriting was unmistakable, my wife's. My heart sank, and memories flooded back. The night she left, the tears in my kids' eyes, the promises I made to myself never to let them feel abandoned again. I brought the letter inside, setting it on the kitchen table as my kids filled the house with their chatter. Jerry noticed my distant expression. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah," I replied with a weak smile, not ready to share the truth. "We'll talk later." Late that night, after the kids were asleep, I finally opened the letter. Her words hit me like a storm. She wrote about how much she regretted leaving, how she had undergone significant changes, and how she wanted a second chance. She wanted to reconnect with me and the children. I was torn. Her departure had left scars, but the idea of her return stirred a mix of anger, curiosity, and hope. Could she truly have changed? Could I forgive her? During dinner, I clutched the letter in my pocket, keeping it a secret for one more night. As I watched my children laughing and chatting, the normalcy of our routine felt increasingly fragile. Their joy was a comfort, but inside I was a tangle of nerves. How would they react to the truth? Would it shatter this delicate peace we had built over the years? "Dad, you're quiet tonight," Toby remarked, snapping me out of my thoughts. I forced a smile. "Just tired, kiddo. Eat up, we've got a big day tomorrow." For now, I let them enjoy the moment, but I knew I couldn't delay the inevitable much longer. Over the next few days, I started noticing changes in my kids. Jerry seemed distracted, often lost in thought. The younger ones began asking questions about their mother, seemingly out of nowhere. "Dad, do you think Mom ever misses us?" Mia, my middle child, asked one evening, catching me off guard. I hesitated, not knowing how to answer. "I'm sure she thinks about you," I said cautiously, feeling the weight of her question linger. Even Har, who usually kept his emotions locked away, became more direct. "Is there something you're not telling us?" he asked one night, his voice sharp with suspicion. Their questions were building, and I could feel the tension growing. It was clear I couldn't keep the letter a secret any longer. Avoiding the conversation was only making things worse. By the weekend, I made up my mind. Over a family dinner, I took a deep breath and gathered them around the table. "There's something important I need to share with you all," I began, my voice steady but heavy with emotion. Jerry leaned back, arms crossed, while the younger kids looked at me curiously. Slowly, I pulled the letter from my pocket and began reading it aloud. As I spoke, their expressions shifted. Confusion, shock, anger, and curiosity flickered across their faces. "Why now, after all these years?" Jerry demanded, his fists clenched. Mia's voice was softer but filled with equal weight. "Does she really want to come back?" Younger kids like Toby looked torn between wanting to know their mother and feeling unsure about her sudden reappearance. "We'll take this one step at a time," I assured them, my eyes meeting each of theirs. "Your feelings matter. We're a team and we'll face this together." The tension eased slightly, but uncertainty still lingered in the room. As if the emotional strain at home wasn't enough, my promotion at work brought its own set of challenges. My mornings started earlier, my nights stretched longer, and the demands of my job left me with less time for my kids. One evening, Jerry, my boss at the construction company, noticed my distraction. "Ben, can we talk?" he asked, motioning me into his office. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "There's been a lot going on at home," I admitted. Jerry nodded, his concern evident. "You're doing a great job, but if you need flexibility, let me know. We'll support you however we can." His understanding gave me a sense of relief and the courage to take control of the situation. I decided to seek legal counsel to understand my options. If my wife truly wanted to return, I needed to ensure my children's well-being was protected. Meanwhile, my kids, especially Jerry and Mia, began their own investigation. Armed with the internet and an insatiable curiosity, they started researching their mother's life over the past decade. "Dad, we found some stuff about Mom," Jerry said one evening, showing me what they had uncovered. Their discoveries painted a complicated picture, a life filled with struggles and changes. It was clear that she had faced challenges, but whether that made her intentions genuine was still unclear. Watching my children dive into something so emotionally heavy made my heart ache. They were growing up too fast, taking on burdens I wished I could shield them from. The mounting stress began to take its toll. I found myself overwhelmed, constantly juggling work, family, and the emotional storm of my wife's return. One day, I decided to confide in my old friend Mark, who had gone through a similar situation. Over coffee at a local diner, I let it all out. "Mark, I don't know how much more I can handle," I admitted, my voice trembling. Mark nodded, his gaze steady. "You've been carrying this alone for too long, Ben. Let's break it down together." His advice and reassurance gave me a sense of clarity. He encouraged me to join a support group for single parents, something I had never considered before. Walking into my first support group meeting was nerve-wracking, but it turned out to be exactly what I needed. Hearing others share their stories reminded me that I wasn't alone. Their tips and advice helped me navigate the emotional and legal complexities of my situation. "You're doing great, Ben," one member told me after a particularly tough session. "It's okay to take things one step at a time." The meetings became a source of strength, equipping me with practical strategies to manage my time, my emotions, and my responsibilities. Slowly, I began to feel more in control. With newfound clarity, I sat down with my children again. "We've got this," I told them. "No matter what happens, we'll face it together." The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready. Whether their mother returned or not, I knew that as long as we stuck together, we could handle anything. One evening, as I sat in the dimly lit room, the advice from the support group played over in my mind. It grounded me, offering practical solutions to handle the chaos that had become my life. Slowly, I felt my footing return, ready to face the challenges ahead. Yet, the uneasy peace at home felt like it was hanging by a thread. The tension was palpable, and no matter how hard I tried to maintain normalcy, my kids could sense something was off. "Dad, is everything okay?" Jerry, my eldest, asked, his concern evident. I nodded and forced a smile. "Of course, kiddo. Just a lot on my mind." But the truth was far from simple. The letter, the promotion, and now the revelations about their mother weighed heavily on me. One evening, Jerry approached me, his expression serious. "Dad, you need to see this," he said. He handed me his laptop, and on the screen were social media profiles, news articles, and scattered posts about his mother. The picture they painted was one I wasn't ready to see. It revealed a life of instability, struggles, and questionable decisions. "She's been in another relationship," Jerry said bluntly. "And look at this, she's struggling financially. Do you think that's why she wants to come back?" I stared at the screen, my emotions a whirlpool of anger, sadness, and confusion. The thought of her having ulterior motives made my stomach churn, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. "Let's not assume the worst just yet," I cautioned. "We need more information before deciding what to do." I nodded, but their unease was clear. The more they uncovered, the more complicated the situation became. It was hard to separate fact from speculation, and every piece of new information felt like another blow to our fragile peace. Feeling the strain on all of us, I decided we needed a break. "Pack your bags," I told the kids. "We're going on a little trip." We headed to a cozy cabin by the lake, seeking a much-needed escape from the weight of our everyday lives. The change in scenery worked wonders. Laughter returned as we hiked through the woods, played card games, and roasted marshmallows by the campfire. "This is just what we needed," I said, watching the kids smile for the first time in what felt like ages. Even Jerry, usually so guarded, relaxed a little. "Thanks for this, Dad," he said as we sat by the fire. "It feels good to forget for a while." The trip reminded us of the bond we shared, one that no external force could break. For a brief moment, we were just a family, free from the worries that loomed over us. Once we returned home, I decided it was time to gather more concrete information about my wife. I reached out to mutual friends and even hired a private investigator to piece together her life over the past decade. "Leave no stone unturned," I told the investigator. "I need to know everything." The information trickled in slowly, revealing a complex web of struggles and instability. She had faced financial hardships, had been in and out of relationships, and seemed to be at a crossroads in her life. While some of it confirmed my suspicions, it also painted a picture of someone trying to rebuild, a reality that left me more conflicted than ever. Just as we were settling back into our routine, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I hesitated but answered. "Hello." "Ben, it's me," the voice on the other end said. My heart quickened. It was her. She wanted to visit the kids. Her voice was filled with desperation, but I couldn't ignore the audacity of her request. "I just want to see them," she pleaded. "After all this time? Why now?" I asked, my frustration evident. Her answers were vague, full of apologies and promises of change, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her intentions. Still, I reluctantly agreed to a meeting under strict conditions. "We'll meet in a public place," I told her, "and if the kids don't want to see you, it ends there." She agreed, and a date was set. But as the day approached, I couldn't shake the unease creeping up my spine. The kids were visibly anxious as the day of the meeting arrived. "Do we really have to do this?" Toby, my youngest, asked, clutching my hand. "We'll get through it together," I reassured them. "I promise." We met at a neutral location, a park by the duck pond. It was public and familiar, a place where we could keep things calm. When she arrived, tears filled her eyes as she saw the kids. They stood guarded, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "I was young and scared," she began, her voice trembling. "I made mistakes, but I want to make things right." The kids were unmoved. Jerry crossed his arms and asked the question on everyone's mind. "What do you expect from us now?" Her explanations felt hollow, her words unable to bridge the gap created by years of absence. The conversation was awkward, filled with long silences and strained attempts at connection. When it ended, the kids looked to me for reassurance. "Why now, Dad?" Mia asked softly. "Why did she come back?" I pulled them close. "I don't have all the answers, but we'll figure it out together." Determined to protect my children and make the best decision for our family, I told Jerry, "We need to know more before we decide anything." He nodded in agreement. "Whatever it takes, Dad." The private investigator promised comprehensive details, and I felt a small sense of control returning. No matter what her true intentions were, I was ready to face them head-on, armed with the strength of my family and the determination to protect the life we had built. One evening, as I handed over an old photograph and key details to the private investigator, I felt a sense of resolve. "Find out everything you can," I urged. It was a necessary step, not just to protect our family's future, but to finally gain clarity. The days that followed were filled with tension and anticipation. Every time the phone rang, my heart skipped a beat. Nights were restless as the weight of waiting bore down on me. The kids noticed my unease. "Any news yet, Dad?" Jerry, my eldest, asked daily. His voice carried both hope and dread, a mirror of my own emotions. "Not yet," I'd reply, forcing a calm tone. Inside, I was bracing for answers I wasn't sure I wanted. Weeks later, the updates started coming in. The investigator uncovered a series of troubling truths. Conversations with mutual acquaintances, scouring social media posts, and digging into public records painted a grim picture. "She's been struggling financially and legally," the investigator reported during one call. "She's facing lawsuits and significant debt." I sat in silence, absorbing the information. It confirmed my worst fears. Her sudden desire to reconnect wasn't driven by love or regret, it was desperation. "She sees us as her lifeline," the investigator added. "She's trying to escape her problems. The evidence is clear." The selfishness of her motives stung deeply. I felt a mix of vindication and sorrow. Despite everything, I had hoped there was some genuine desire to reconcile, to mend the family she had left behind. Instead, her intentions felt hollow. "I knew it," I muttered, my voice heavy with despair. The truth provided clarity but also reopened old wounds. That evening, I gathered my kids in the living room. "We need to talk," I said, my tone serious but calm. They sat around me, their faces a mixture of concern and curiosity. "I've been investigating your mother's situation." I began carefully laying out the facts. I showed them the reports, the documents, and the findings. Their eyes widened as they read through the evidence. "She's not coming back for the reasons we hoped," I said gently. "She's struggling and sees us as her way out." Mia, my middle child, frowned. "So she doesn't really care about us?" "I think she's lost and making bad choices," I replied honestly. "But that doesn't mean we have to let her disrupt what we've built." The room was filled with silence for a moment. Then Jerry spoke, his voice steady. "We've made it this far without her. We'll be fine." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride at their resilience. "We'll handle this together. We've always been a team, and that's not changing." The family's decision was unanimous. We would protect our bond and move forward without her. To ensure our security, I consulted the lawyer again, laying out a plan to safeguard our financial and emotional well-being. "We need to cover all bases," I told the lawyer, signing documents that would legally protect the children and secure our future. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of control returning. A few days later, I called the kids to the dining table. "I have something important to show you," I said, pulling out a set of documents. "What's this, Dad?" Toby, my youngest, asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "These," I began, unfolding the papers, "are the result of everything I've been doing to secure your future. I've been quietly saving and investing to make sure you all have the life you deserve." The kids leaned in, their faces softening as they realized the extent of my efforts. "I finalized adopting all of you," I added, my voice breaking slightly. "This ensures no one can ever take you away from me, not even her." Jerry's eyes brimmed with tears. "Dad, you did all this for us?" I nodded, emotions flooding me. "I love you all more than anything. I wanted to make sure you're always safe and secure." The room was silent, heavy with emotion, before they all embraced me. "We're going to be okay," I whispered, holding them close. "We've got each other, and that's all we need." In the weeks that followed, a sense of peace returned to our home. The weight of uncertainty was replaced by renewed energy and optimism. Our routines felt lighter, and for the first time in years, we focused on thriving instead of merely surviving. "Feels good to have some normalcy," Jerry remarked one evening, and I couldn't agree more. Mia announced her plans to join the soccer team. Go for it, I encouraged, thrilled to see her enthusiasm. The younger kids poured their energy into hobbies, while Jerry excelled in academics, preparing for college. Each of them was growing into strong, independent individuals. You're doing wonderful things, I often reminded them, my heart swelling with pride. The challenges we faced had strengthened our bond, and we moved forward with resilience and hope. While the past remained a part of our story, it no longer defined us. We're ready for anything, Dad, Toby said confidently one evening. I smiled, feeling the truth in his words. United by love, trust, and shared strength, we faced the future with optimism. Our story was far from over, but I knew the chapters ahead would be filled with growth, joy, and unwavering support. Together, we could handle anything. What's your take on this? Drop your opinions in the comments section. Would I have gone about it in a better way? Please like and subscribe to this beautiful channel.